David here with figbootonpens. Today I'm going to talk about something a little bit different. It's not a pen, but a pen accessory. And that accessory is the Visconti Traveling Inkwell. What I'm going to do is go over the parts and features of the inkwell, talk about some things I care for, some of the things I don't care for about it. I'll show some size comparisons and then show you how the thing works. It comes in this box, which is a standard Visconti box. It's actually the one that the Rembrandt comes in as well. Here we have the standard Visconti Manual that shows some of their pens. Has a serial number on the back. It also mentions here on the back where you could go up to Visconti's website and register the serial number. They have something up there called the Visconti Club where you enter in all your Visconti pens and you can post pictures of them and show them off. The issue is though that there's only the option to enter in pens, not this inkwell. And then also when you enter the pens, the model is a required field, but they don't include all the models that they offer in the drop-down menu. Like I have an Opera Metal and that one is on there, but the Opera Elements was one that was not. The Opera Masters are not on the list, so they have a few kinks to work out on their website. Inside the box, just open it up, we have a comically long set of instructions for this inkwell. Now I know this is coming in a number of different languages, but as you'll see, this inkwell is not overly complicated, so I don't think we'll need that. What's left in the box is two things. There is a glass eyedropper, and then there is the inkwell. And here it is. It comes in this little sleeve. And there is the inkwell. It's also commonly known as the ink pot, so you might see it referred to as such. It varies from site to site. I've seen it on some sites as the inkwell and some sites as the ink pot. I thought it might be a little bit larger, but it's big enough to get the job done. This has an ink capacity of 5.5 milliliters. It also has a very solid feel to it. It's made of quality materials and doesn't feel cheap, which is good because the price tag on this inkwell is a little bit on the steep side. So let's go over here to camera 2 and I'll show you how this inkwell works. So here's a closer look at the inkwell. It actually says Visconti right here on the label, and then it actually says Traveling Ink Pot in a couple of different languages around here. It has a real nice large ink window, and then it has a fill line as well. First of all, before I fill this thing up, let's go over a couple of the pens which do and do not work with this inkwell. You can see when you open it up, it's a little hard to see in here, I guess, but there is a rubber lining inside here, which it's a rubber sleeve that will create a seal around your pen, and then that's what prevents the ink from coming out. So a couple of pens, it does work on the vast majority of pens, but there were a few with some unique features that I wanted to at least test out and show you. Here it is with a Lamy Safari. I thought that the inkwell might not like this triangular grip section, which is also on the All-Star and the Vista, but it does work just fine in here and create a decent seal. Then we have the Jet Pens Mini Aluminum, which I recently reviewed. This is a very small pen, and as you can see here, this will not work because it's too small to create a seal. How about another relatively small pen? How about the Pilot Metropolitan? It's not the largest pen, but it will work in here. You need to be a little bit careful though, because the section will get down below the end here, and that there's you just have to be careful because then once you've filled it, you're actually pulling on the converter itself. You just want to make sure that you don't pull the converter off of the pen, leaving this section in the inkwell. So how about a large pen? Here it is with a Delta Dolce Vita oversized. And in regard to this one, this has a very large section, and that is not fitting in here. And that's too large. But that's about as large of a section that I own. Another small pen, a Pilot Prera. This is a pretty small pen, but as you can see here, it will work just fine. And actually works a little bit better than the Metropolitan because the section doesn't go all the way beneath the line here. So it does work very well. But another popular pen, a Pilot Vanishing Point, this one will not work. Mainly because in order to fill a vanishing point, you have to take out this nib housing, and you can see here that there's no way that this is going to fit in here. It's a little too small. So let's go ahead and fill up this inkwell with some Visconti blue ink. This Visconti ink comes in one of my favorite bottles. I just really love this unique shape, and the deep blue of this Visconti blue is one of my favorites as well. The inkwell comes with this glass eyedropper it's nice, but it's kind of a little bit of a pain to clean. Sometimes you have to kind of take off this rubber part at the back to really get in there. I typically use a syringe when filling the inkwell. It's just a little bit neater, but we'll go ahead and use the eyedropper here. And you just fill it up here. And as I mentioned before, this does have a decent amount of capacity in the inkwell. It's like 5.5 milliliters. A couple more. There. Get this out of the way. And we'll go ahead and close this up. And now we have the ink in there right up to the fill line. It's blue ink, so it's going to look like it's a little bit more in there, but it's right up there to the fill line. The cap is very secure. I've taken this on several trips, and I've had no issues with this cap getting loose at all. Even on airplanes where there might be a bit of a pressurization issue, I haven't experienced any issues with the cap. And as I said, it's very secure. Now let me show you how to actually use the inkwell. I don't have any Visconti demonstrators, so here's just a TWSBI VAX 700, but this will work well enough. I just wanted to give you something where you actually see the fill. That you want to take off the cap, and when you take off the cap you want to be just a little bit careful because there might be some ink right on the bottom. And then what you do is that you insert the nib into the inkwell. Orientation doesn't matter. And you can feel it fit snugly against the sleeve. And when you turn it over, you can see that it is not leaking. The first time I did that, I was a bit nervous. I thought ink was going to go all over the place and spill. But as long as you have your pen snugly inserted, that you won't have any issues. In the case of vacuum fillers, such as the VAX 700 or any of the other mini Visconti power filling pens, you really want to be sure to securely hold both the pen and the inkwell at the same time. That with power fillers, as you pull and depress this rod, it's going to be releasing some air into the inkwell, creating a bit of pressure. And if you're not careful and not holding on securely, then you could proceed to kind of launch the inkwell off of the pen and create a bit of a mess. And that wouldn't be pretty. We're not talking about a great deal of pressure. You just have to make sure you hold on tight to it. It doesn't need to be a vice grip. You just make sure it's not going anywhere. Then, with holding on to there, you can fill the pen just like you would out of a standard bottle of ink. And let's just go ahead. It actually helps if you're doing it slightly angled up, especially for these power fillers. And that we have the fill. Let me just go ahead and take this out here, and I'll replace the cap. Actually, there's a little secret compartment here in the top of the cap, and inside we have a little material that can be used in a pinch to wipe up the nib and to clean it, which is nice to have that in there. And let me just go ahead and wipe off this section and seal the pen up. And you can see here that I was able to get a fairly decent fill out of here. You know, it's a virtually 100% fill, which is really nice. You know, I know it sounds like common sense, but when you're extracting the pen, you want to make sure that the orientation is up. You don't want to make sure the orientation is down, because then all of the ink is just going to pour right out of the inkwell and spill all over the place. But as I said, that it's very easy to use and is able to give you a really decent fill. So the positives about the Visconti Traveling Inkwell, you know, it has a large ink capacity, 5.5 milliliters. So that will last you quite a ways if you're traveling. It is very durable, and that it isn't much mess. You could fill up your pen very cleanly, and there isn't much mess to it at all. It also fits inside of a pen case, very nice, and that it fits the vast majority of pens out there. As far as negatives, you know, it can't be used with a few popular pens like the Pilot Vanishing Point and some oversized pens. You know, the eyedropper is a nice inclusion, but it's a bit of a pain to clean. So I usually kind of use the syringe, like I said. And the main downside is the price. It retails for $70. And there's some really nice pens you can get out there for $70. So there you have the Visconti Traveling Inkwell. If you're looking for a nice alternative to carrying around some extra cartridges or ink vials, this is definitely a product which is very handy, very well made, and works as advertised. So thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you later. Especially on a vacuum filler like this, that you want to really make sure that you securely hold both the pen and the inkwell. With the power fillers, as you depress the rod, it is going to release some air into the inkwell and create a bit of pressure. And if you're not careful and not holding on securely, then potentially you could proceed to launch the inkwell like a water rocket across the room, and that would not be pretty. And we're not talking about a great deal of pressure. It's not like you have to have a vice grip on this thing. You just want to make sure that it's not going anywhere. So I'm just holding it and then getting my fill, and let's just go ahead and fill this a couple of times. And you can see